So now let's look at DNS. That's the Internet Phone Book. What do you mean DNS? Okay, when your clients actually send a request to a server, here's the problem. Your computer does not actually understand names like google.com. No, they don't understand google.com or github.com. So what they understand is just the IP addresses. So what translates names like google.com to the IP address is actually the DNS, and that's a domain name system. That's what DNS means, domain name system. So what it does here now is that it actually translates the IP, the google.com, which is the domain name, to the IP address. So it's just like when you have your phone number, your friend's number, you don't actually know your friend's number often, but you know their names. So your phone does not actually call their name, but it calls their number. But your phone has this name mapped to this number, so you can just search for the name and call the number. So that is what the domain name is for the internet. You can just call it the Internet Phone Book in that sense. So these are the first steps that your browser goes through. So when you send a request, your browser check the local cache. So if the IP address is already, let's say you visit google.com recently, it should be stored in the local cache. So if it's there, it will just use it and access the IP address immediately. But if it is not, it will ask the ISP resolver right here now. So the ISP resolver now is going to go to the root DNS server to find who is responsible for these .com domains. Then the server points to the authoritative name server for google.com, which actually will bring back the IP address itself. If it's not on the local cache, it tags the server, that is the ISP. Then the ISP will now look for the root DNS server, which is the .com or .org. Then this root DNS server now will not narrow it down, the search down to these .com servers and look for who is responsible for google.com and bring back the IP address. And all this happens roughly in about 20 milliseconds. Invisibly, right? Because your request even it leaves your machine even before you press enter, something like that. That's how fast it is. Okay, I want you to type something right now, and that is just like, okay, I want you to go into your terminal and just type something like, if you're using Linux, you can type like git google.com and you should say a response that will give you the address. And if you're using Windows, you can type ns.google.com. So I'm just going to show you that right here. So this is it, and I can just go ahead with it again. Here now we get the server, or no, we get the address, we get and we get the server name here, google.com, and we get the address again. So that is showing you the address this is going to. So I hope you understand that. So let's just proceed to the next slide. So here now we have the TCP/IP protocol. In that sense, this is the postal system data, or as I would like to call it in that sense. Now we have an IP address. Great, right? But how does this data actually get it from your machine to that IP address reliably? That's a protocol now. That's a TCP/IP protocol, right? So the IP address can be the street address now. So what happened here now? Think of the IP as the addressing system, like a street address. It tells the data where to go. So the TCP is the delivery guarantee. It makes sure that the data actually arrives in the right order without corruption. As you know, that protocols are like rules that guide the format at which these are sent and received. So that is what it is. So the analogy I love now is like the IP is the street address and the TCP is the postal service that confirm the delivery in that sense. Now, before the HTTP data can flow between the client and the server, the TCP does something called a three-way handshake. So look at it from the right side of this slide now. We see the three-way handshake. So your machine now send a sync like this. That's like SYN to the server. Basically saying, hey, I want to talk to you. Then the server replies with a sync arc right here. And it can be like, okay, I hear you. I am ready to talk to you. Something like that. Then the machine will now send a final arc now right here that say, great, let's go. That means the connection has been established. So now if the connection has been established, so the request and the response you are going to send throughout the conversation is guaranteed that it will be delivered. So only after the handshake does the real data move. So it's only after this process, after the connection has been established, that is when the real data will move. Just like when a friend wants to come and visit you, it's call you first. Hey friend, are you at home? And you cannot reply, yes, I'm home. You can come. So when you reply, yes, I'm home, you can come, that is when the friend cannot say, okay, I'm coming. So the friend will be can say that I'm going to actually meet you at home. So now look at the bottom of this slide now. You see the common port that you will be using. So these ports are like, they are numbers. They are something that are constantly, that you see as constantly as a backend developer. So we have port 80, which is the HTTP. We have port 443, which is HTTPS. And we have port 5432, which you mostly use for PostgreSQL, and 6379 for Redis. And use Redis for background tasks, for caching, in that sense. And we have port 8000, which should be your favorite and what you're most familiar with, right? When you're working with Django, Fast API, because this is the default port for development. When you run Python, manage your Spiral server, or you run your Fast API. So just memorize this, know this, because you'll be seeing this more frequently as you program as a backend developer.